More than 100 billion pieces of clothing are produced every year to supply the global fashion industry. But behind that enormous number lies another one. Around 92 million tons of textile waste, making it one of the fastest-growing waste streams in the world. What many people don't realize is that not all of it ends up in landfills. Every day, modern recycling facilities are quietly giving these old textiles a second life. But how can worn-out clothes that seem to have lost all their value be transformed into brand new materials? The idea of recycling clothing is actually nothing new. Long before the fashion industry became what it is today, clothing was valuable and rarely thrown away. When garments could no longer be worn, they were repaired, passed on to someone else, or cut into rags and blankets. But everything changed after the Industrial Revolution, especially with the rise of fast fashion in the late 20th century. Clothes became cheaper, were produced faster, and were discarded at an unprecedented rate. As a result, the textile industry had to find a new solution, not just collecting old clothing, but turning it into a valuable source of raw materials for manufacturing entirely new products. And that's exactly the journey we'll explore today. The journey of an old piece of clothing begins the moment it arrives at a recycling facility. Every day, thousands of tons of used garments are delivered to the plant and unloaded onto long conveyor belts, where the recycling process begins. To a recycling facility, these are much more than just old clothes. Every type of fiber has its own composition and properties, which means it requires a different recycling process. If cotton is mixed with polyester, or blended fabrics are not separated properly, the quality of the recycled material can drop significantly. In some cases, it can even ruin an entire production batch. That is why sorting is the most important step in the entire recycling process. Only after each garment has been correctly identified by its material can it continue its journey toward becoming something new. But how can a recycling facility identify thousands of different garments in just a few hours? To process thousands of garments every hour, many recycling facilities use near-infrared (NIR) sorting technology. As each item moves past the scanner, the machine shines near-infrared light onto the fabric. Because every type of fiber reflects this light differently, the computer can quickly identify whether the material is cotton, polyester, wool, or many other types of textiles. Once the material has been identified, compressed air jets automatically blow each garment into the correct collection bin while the conveyor belt continues moving without stopping. However, items made from multiple materials, or those with zippers, metal buttons, and other large accessories still need to be inspected and separated by workers before moving to the next stage. This combination of advanced technology and human expertise allows the sorting process to achieve a high level of accuracy. Once the garments have been sorted by fiber type, they are cut into small pieces in preparation for the cleaning stage. Shredding the fabric allows water and cleaning solutions to reach every layer more effectively, while also preparing the material for the next steps in the recycling process. The fabric pieces are then fed into an industrial washing system. Here, they are thoroughly cleaned to remove dirt, oils, sweat, leftover dyes, and other contaminants that have accumulated during use. At the same time, the system continues removing any remaining non-textile materials, such as buttons, zippers, sewing threads, or small metal fragments that were not completely separated during the earlier sorting stage. After going through multiple washing and cleaning cycles, the fabric pieces are dewatered and sent to the next stage in a much cleaner and more uniform condition. At this stage, the old garments lose their original form completely. They are fed into a shredding and fiber opening system, where each piece of fabric is torn apart and separated back into individual fiber bundles. First, the material passes through a shredder, which cuts it into smaller, more uniform pieces. It is then transferred to a fiber opener, where rotating drums fitted with steel teeth continuously pull, comb, and separate the fabric into loose clusters of fibers. This process is repeated several times to break down the woven or knitted structure, while preserving as much fiber length as possible. By the end of this stage, the material is no longer recognizable as clothing, or even pieces of fabric. Instead, it has become a soft, fluffy mass of loose fibers. At this point, the recycling process begins to split based on the type of material. Because natural fibers and synthetic fibers have very different properties, each follows its own recycling method. Let's start with cotton, the most widely used natural fiber in the textile industry. The recycled cotton fibers are first fed through a carding system, where they are disentangled, straightened, and aligned in the same direction, while short fibers and any remaining lint are removed. Because recycled cotton fibers are typically shorter than virgin cotton fibers, many recycling facilities blend them with a portion of virgin cotton to improve strength and ensure a more stable spinning process. Finally, the blended fibers are formed into continuous slivers. Unlike cotton, polyester is recycled by melting it down and turning it into completely new fibers. After being sorted and cleaned, the polyester pieces are fed into a heating system until they become molten plastic. The molten material then passes through a filtration system to remove any remaining contaminants, such as dust, other plastic fragments, or unwanted particles, improving the quality of the final fiber. Careful filtration at this stage also helps prevent defects during the fiber-making process. Next, the molten polyester is forced through spinnerets containing hundreds of tiny holes, forming continuous filaments. As the filaments emerge, they are cooled to solidify, then stretched to align their molecular structure and increase their mechanical strength. Depending on the intended application, the fibers can be produced in different thicknesses and with different properties before being wound onto large spools, ready for textile manufacturing. Once the recycled fibers have been turned into yarn, the spools are sent to weaving machines to begin producing new fabric. Thousands of yarns are stretched and aligned in parallel, while an automated system continuously interlaces them according to a pre-programmed pattern. In a short time, meters of new fabric take shape with a strong, uniform structure. After weaving is complete, the fabric undergoes quality inspection to detect defects such as broken yarns, misaligned patterns, or surface imperfections. Fabric rolls that meet the required standards are then sent for dyeing, finishing, or garment manufacturing, where they are transformed into new clothing and a wide range of other textile products, completing the journey of giving old garments a new life. Before the recycled fabric can be turned into new clothing, it goes through the dyeing process to achieve the desired color. Depending on the type of fiber and the final product, the fabric is either immersed in dye baths or passed through a continuous dyeing system, allowing the dye to penetrate evenly into every fiber. Throughout the process, temperature, processing time, fabric speed, and dye concentration are carefully controlled to ensure consistent color across the entire fabric while meeting the required color fastness standards. This precise control helps produce fabric rolls with uniform color and minimizes variations between production batches. Once the dyeing process is complete, the fabric is washed to remove excess dye and any remaining surface impurities. It is then dried and sent through a series of finishing processes that improve its softness, smoothness, and dimensional stability before it is ready for use in manufacturing new textile products. The journey of old clothing doesn't end here. After completing the recycling process, the newly produced fabric rolls are sent to garment factories, where they are cut, sewn, and finished into a wide variety of products. Depending on the type of fiber and the quality of the recycled material, they can be turned into new clothing, bags, blankets, carpets, and many other textile products used in everyday life. Beyond reducing the amount of textile waste sent to landfills, recycled fibers also help conserve raw materials, water, and energy compared with producing virgin fibers from scratch. As a result, items that were once considered waste become valuable resources, capable of serving people through multiple life cycles. From old clothes forgotten in the back of a closet to completely new products, the textile recycling process shows that what we often think of as waste doesn't always have to end up in a landfill. With the right technology, it can become the raw material for an entirely new life cycle. Of course, recycling alone cannot solve every problem facing the fashion industry. But every garment that is recycled means fewer virgin materials need to be produced, and less waste ends up in the environment. Perhaps in the future, the value of a piece of clothing won't be measured by the first time it is worn, but by how many times it can be given a new life. What about you? When a piece of clothing has reached the end of its life, what do you usually do with it? Do you keep using it, donate it, recycle it, or throw it away? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join us on more fascinating journeys of discovery.